Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lesley Tavernier, and I'm bringing to you today a new episode of Feminine Powered Dialogues. I used to call this Dark Feminine Love, but I don't want to just only talk about the dark feminine. I want to talk about all three feminine archetypes. So we're going to be talking about the dark feminine and the enlightened feminine and the divine feminine in future episodes. Today we're still going to focus on the dark feminine. But I consider myself to be a feminine power love coach. And I have with me here today my dark masculine man. So can you please introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, peace and blessings. My name is Rakim Sekou. I am a metaphysician, a tantric practitioner, co-founder of the Pantheon spiritual community, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So the main theme for today, or the main question is, do men fear the dark feminine? We're going to get into that a little bit later. But before we're going to just like dive into some like celebrity stuff. So first we're going to talk about Cardi B. We have to talk about Cardi B. So there's two commentaries that I heard recently that really stood out to me. Both of them are from Black male influencers. So the first one is a man by the name of Charleston White. And he says that Cardi B is a broken hoe and a cum bucket, and that only Black women look up to her because Black women are okay with having multiple baby fathers. And he also made sure to mention that Cardi B's fourth child is a bastard child that was born out of wedlock. And also, another man by the name of Ray Daniels, he says that he doesn't understand, and he thinks that most men don't understand how it is that Cardi would leave her husband, who was a man whore, to get with another man whore by the name of Stefan Diggs. So men are really confused by Cardi B, and they don't seem to have a really high opinion of her. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a lot. So you'll probably have to come back to some of the individual questions if I miss them
Mhm.
or opinions.
Yeah.
In terms of Ray Daniels, I mean, that dude is, he's a hater.
Mhm.
And, also what you consider to be a beta male type character. So
Oh, wow.
he's you a lot of hate towards people in general. So probably a lot of hate women in general and those types of things.
Okay.
Um, in terms of Cardi's relationship with Offset, Offset was a serial cheater
Mhm.
and he was also very immature.
Mhm.
So Cardi getting with him in the first place was a really bad mistake on her part.
Mhm.
And the reason why she did get with him is because Cardi does, first of all, she is very bad at relationships.
Mhm.
Like she's not good at relationships.
Mhm.
Number two, she's talked about, having a lot of trauma. She's talked about her self-esteem battles. So
Mhm.
she's admitted to those things. And so we're seeing that play out in the relationships. To me, Offset is just like he was a really, sad portrayal of what a husband should be.
Mhm.
So in terms of Cardi leaving him, she should have left him immediately. She shouldn't have even married the guy, to be honest.
Mhm.
Cardi obviously has a weakness for a certain type of man.
Mhm.
She likes men who have a certain level of attractiveness. Stefan Diggs is an obvious example of that. In terms of her being a cum bucket, I disagree with that analogy.
Mhm.
I don't see her as being hoish in nature at all or promiscuous in nature at all.
Mhm.
And again, even if she was, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, she can choose to do her sexuality in any way she chooses. But, for the most part, I think she stayed pretty loyal to Offset while they were actually married. It
Mhm.
wasn't until she decided that she was going to definitely leave him and that they were separated that she actually engaged with Stefan Diggs.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think, Cardi, she does need support. She needs to talk to somebody like me who can really support her and just understanding herself better, healing from some childhood trauma, and being better at relationships, and actually cultivating solid relationships.
Mhm.
In terms of her getting with Stefan Diggs, um, Stefan Diggs is a good looking guy. And so it's understandable why she would get with him. Again, she's not really good at relationships. So, of course, that relationship was doomed to fail.
Mhm.
I don't know what actually happened in that. It feels like she probably went overboard with her expectations of him around the Super Bowl stuff, but I'm
Mhm.
not really sure on the details of that.
Mhm. Well, what Ray Daniels is saying, how is it that she went from the same type of man to the same type of man?
Well, that most people do that. So if I haven't healed from my trauma, and if
Mhm.
I haven't actually grown in a particular way, then I'm going to choose the same kind of situation.
Mhm.
Um, I don't see Stefan Diggs as an upgrade from Offset
Mhm.
in a number of ways. Has more money, um, is more honest about who he is. So he's never tried to hide his baby mamas. Offset is somebody who like he's the classic example of a beta male where somebody who was like sneaking around,
Mhm.
won't just say what it is. Just
Okay.
if just tell Cardi, look, I'm gonna have sex with multiple women. That's just who I am. That's what I'm gonna do, and
Mhm.
decide if you want to be with me or not. Stefan Diggs has never hidden the fact that he's been out there. Everybody knows his resume. Everybody knows he's had
Yeah.
baby mamas and women before he even got with Cardi B, and Cardi B knew these things.
Yeah.
So, in addition to that, Cardi B and Stefan Diggs were not married.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't even know they might have got engaged or whatever, but they weren't married. So that level of commitment that she was supposed to have with Offset didn't exist with Stefan Diggs. So you
Mhm.
can't compare those two situations. When a man calls himself, your husband, and he claims to be fidelitous to you and then breaks that, that's one thing. When a man has baby mamas all over the place, is obviously having sex with a lot of women, is taking pictures and on video with a lot of women on yachts and stuff like that. That's a man who's living his life out loud,
Mhm.
and very obvious who he was. So nobody was fooled by who Stefan Diggs was or is, because he was very open and upfront about who he is. Offset is different. He's somebody who, that sneaky kind of, slimy kind of male,
Mhm.
doesn't really stand firmly in his manhood and just be what it is and say what it is.
Okay. Wow. All right. So my next question it pertains to a reel that you shared recently. A lot of my questions are about your reels. And you were saying that relationship dysfunction is rooted in monogamous culture or the monogamous mindset and Western European values. And so there was a woman who commented on your reel and she said, speaking as a Caribbean woman, this will never work. I think she thought that you were promoting polygamy. So she said, it's not about money, it's about containment. Men end up looking for multiple women because they cannot regulate emotionally. Most men don't know what to do with one woman. The answer isn't polygamy. So I asked her, how do you feel about polyamory, where both men and women can have multiple partners? And she replied, it's poor spiritual and physical hygiene. This isn't just a physical world. You can't regulate people's demons. Every time you sleep with someone, you're exchanging information. You cannot prosper in any way if other people's shit is attached to you. So let's tackle that in pieces. What are your thoughts on her statement that men seek multiple women because they cannot regulate emotionally?
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I've proven that human beings and all species tend to be very focused on connecting sexually,
Mhm.
connect communally, connecting in a lot of ways. And so it's our natural makeup as human beings to want to bond with other human beings in all kinds of ways.
Mhm.
So you take the typical, life of a man, right? He's going to have what? Friends that he hangs with, that he bonds with. That's a bonding exercise. He's
Mhm.
going to have, girlfriends or a girlfriend or a wife that he bonds with. He's going to have family he bonds with. That's who we are as human beings. A lot of people who are in like religious situations, they really downplay the sexual aspect. They do a lot of sexual shaming, and
Mhm.
that's how we can't get to the truth of who we are as human beings, and come to terms with the proper relationship structure, because people feel so ashamed about our sexuality. But
Mhm.
our sexuality is how we survived as human beings. We didn't survive because we're stronger than lions and tigers and bears and all that. We survived because we bonded sexually with each other, and therefore cared and loved each other and wanted the best for each other and protected each other as a result of that. And that's how we were able to thrive and expand as human beings.
Mhm.
So that's still the case for us today.
Yeah.
We still desire to bond sexually. We still desire to connect. It's not about, me trying to regulate my emotions.
Mhm. And there's many influencers right now that are saying that men are fine with casual sex because men just love the quick dopamine hit and the testosterone spike. So men can have sex and, just keep it moving. Whereas they're saying women experience oxytocin, and so when women have sex, we bond to the man. And when a woman is having lots of casual sex, she's bonding repeatedly, but each time she bonds, she's getting her heart broken. And so therefore women should not be having sex with multiple partners. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
yeah, that's bullshit. So uh, there's a lot of different aspects to that. So human beings love casual sex, period. Uh, why do we love casual sex? Because casual sex feels amazing. So we all love the dopamine rush and the pleasure rush that we get from sex. In addition to that, we love to connect with other human beings, and sexual connection is something that's very deep, very powerful, very profound. You know what I mean? And so all human beings enjoy that. Now, why is it that it's kind of talked in a way that women don't enjoy sex? It's talked that way because women are shamed about their sexuality. That's a part of monogamous culture.
Mhm.
Monogamous culture creates a situation where a woman's value is based on things like body count and how close she is to virgin status and that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why monogamous culture is toxic, because those things have nothing to do with the quality of wife you can be and the quality of mother you can be, right? So that's number one. It's not just that men love casual sex; women and men both love casual sex.
Mhm.
In terms of the oxytocin argument, that's also kind of warped the way it's explained.
Mhm.
What happens is if a woman is having free sex, like a lot of indigenous, cultures, women were allowed to have sex freely whenever they wanted.
Mhm.
So let's say a woman has sex with three men in one day,
Mhm.
right? Um, and we look at the oxytocin spike in her. What is she going to bond with and to, right? What she's going to bond with is not a man, right? Which is what the romantic stories want you to believe. She's
Mhm.
going to bond to the men in her community, the men she's connecting with. You
Mhm.
understand? So
Mhm.
the oxytocin spike was never meant to be you just bond to one particular person, right? The oxytocin spike was always meant to be that you bond and bind yourself to those men who love you, to those people who love you, to those people who are going to protect you. It's not a singular thing. So, and again, in the romantic and the monogamous sense, you're just having sex with one person, the oxytocin spikes, and therefore you bond and bind to that one particular person. So it feels like, well, that's how it's supposed to be. The woman shouldn't be having sex with multiple men. She should just bond with this one person. That's not true. She should be having sex with multiple men. Um, all the men who she's connecting with sexually should be caretakers and protectors of that woman and any children that might come forward. There are a lot of indigenous cultures where they don't really focus on who the father is,
Mhm.
because all the men in that woman's life are uncles or fathers to the children. So,
Yeah.
in a more communal situation, men would just come together and protect all the women and protect all the children. Like they didn't really have this ownership thing. They had ownership over the community or the larger family structures, but not like this has to be my child. That came with European culture, and that came with the advent of agriculture. Uh,
Mhm.
that's when men wanted to pass their land down to their children. But before that, for hundreds of thousands of years before that, we were never focused on that as men. So
Mhm.
again, this whole oxytocin thing has been warped because people are putting the romantic monogamous cultural spin on top of it. But
Yeah.
no, if women are having sex with multiple partners, then they're not going to bond with just one man. They're going to bond with all the men who care for them and who love them.
Hmm. And the thing with oxytocin is men experience oxytocin as well. It's
Absolutely.
a bonding hormone for both men and women. And here's the thing that people don't mention in these analyses is that they don't talk about, well, what level or what amount of oxytocin is a woman feeling, and does she experience oxytocin every time she has sex? Because I don't think it's always the same. Like some women, you might have sex with a man and you didn't really feel anything. You didn't really have any pleasure, you didn't orgasm. Whereas with another man, like you experience a tremendous amount of oxytocin. They say that oxytocin causes the mammary glands to release milk, but it's not just for the baby, it's also for the man as well. I've told you in the past, I had one male client where I experienced so much oxytocin with him that I produced breast milk every single time that I was with that man. I mean, talk about bonding. Like, he was the only client I had that I actually thought about becoming his girlfriend.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? But that didn't mean that I stopped loving all the other men. I didn't stop loving you. Like, it just created a strong connection. Like, he felt like he was my baby. Like, that's how much I cared for him. That's not a bad thing. That's that's something women should get to experience as much as possible, in my opinion.
and really the oxytocin release, you know, a lot of women look at that as something that just connects you to one man and wants you to be monogamous with one man. Really,
Mhm.
the oxytocin release, what part of that is it helps women identify who the father is.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, who the man is that is activating them in a particular level.
Mhm.
Um, that they and you know, so women are really the caretakers and owners of that information. So a
Mhm.
lot of things happens inside of a woman's body and inside of her heart chakra, inside of her mind that really communicate to her what's going on and who is who and those types of things. And
Mhm.
so the oxytocin release is part of that. But no, it was never meant to just bond her to one particular person. Again, that's the romantic spin that
Mhm.
gets put on this stuff in the monogamous spin. No, it's meant to bond her to all the men who are there to protect her, all the men who love her and are going to take care of her and her family.
Beautiful. So, what about the idea that polyamory is poor physical and spiritual hygiene?
Yeah, again, that's part of when with people like attached to this religious culture that we live in, Western religion, they just look down on sex. And
Mm.
so they find a way to demonize sex any possible way that they can. And so, you know, they say, hey, the more sex you're having as a man or a woman, the more unclean you are, the more
Mhm.
lustful you are, the more evil you are, like all those types of things. And that's just not true. So
Mm.
when people say that that's a religious spin,
Yeah.
no, polyamory, first of all, you know, the main thing with polyamory is the focus is really on creating like lasting relationships with people. It doesn't have to be like that, but that's a big part of it, you know. So a lot of times what happens is people enter multiple different types of loving relationships with the people that they're choosing. And so it might not be where all these men are your husbands or all these women are your wives, but
Mhm.
and they show up in the same kind of way or you live with all of them, but these are all very important people to who you are and to who you are as a spiritual being and those types of things. And so polyamory, number one, it helps you just be able to connect authentically with other human beings.
Mhm.
Number two, polyamory in the culture of polyamory allows you to just exist without feeling like you're violating yourself or violating your relationship. Just when you even have a a conversation or a bond with a person of the opposite sex.
Mhm.
I'm saying so polyamory is very intelligent from that way, from that perspective, where we should be able to connect and talk with and bond with other people, even on a friendship level, without feeling it's some kind of violation.
Mhm.
One of the videos I released this morning, one of my clients was talking about how she felt bad that she had downplayed a lot of her male relationships because she tries to respect the woman in his life if he has a girlfriend or whatever. And she's like, that's just stupid. That's
Yeah.
just like monogamous culture. Like I can be friends with men who have girlfriends and don't have to like tiptoe and do any kind of weird stuff. And that's true. And polyamory allows you to just be human being, to
Mhm.
just show up authentically and that kind of stuff. So polyamory, to me, the culture of it is more intelligent than the culture of monogamy. Monogamy creates these really weird segregations in our society,
Mhm.
and those segregations tend to be very toxic, in my opinion.
So I'm going to read you a quote by a man. He calls himself Practice.Human on Instagram, and I shared it with you, and you really liked it. And I'm just going to read it word for word. So he says, from what I'm seeing, there are tremendous numbers of people who require physical and emotional exclusivity. Most, in fact. Most people seem to be relating from a place of almost religious level moral absolutism in regards to mononormativeness. It's very discouraging and disheartening. I was just watching a video this morning of someone talking about their frustration with not finding emotionally available men. But as I dissect what she's saying and how she's saying it, I'm realizing that most people define emotionally available as being available to be emotionally caged. As well, the twisted misunderstanding that loyalty and devotion is equal and synonymous with exclusivity. So What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I agree with everything he's saying.
Hmm.
We got to understand that one of the ways that people deal with their inner insecurities and their inner lack of confidence is through exclusivity.
Hmm.
So they really, one of the ways they try to deal with that and cure that is by having a person who dedicates their entire life, entire being to just them.
Hmm.
Right. And that's why cheating is so devastating to certain people
Yeah.
because they just it's not just that you violated an agreement or that you would possibly expose this person to, STIs or that, you're going to take your love away. It's that you're telling that person that they are not your everything. And it really feels like a rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a real strong blow to these people's self-esteem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when people talk about emotional intelligence and emotional maturity, from a monogamous standpoint, they're really just talking about you being exclusive with them. And if you can't be exclusive with them, then you have some kind of issue or you have some kind of lustful heart or, you're not emotionally developed. And that's just not true. You know what I'm saying? Now, again, like people who end up cheating on their partner and they're not upfront about who they are, that is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
As a man or a woman, if you want to live a particular kind of life, if you want to connect with other human beings, then, you should be able to live that way out loud and kind of step into your truth. So that's a separate issue. But no, just a desire to be with other people, just a desire to connect with other people, to desire to have sex with other people, it's not indicative of, low morale or moral character or low emotional intelligence or low emotional maturity.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be careful when you hear people talk about that. A lot of folks try to really put that monogamous romantic spin when it comes to, judging other people's emotions and behaviors when it comes to sexual exclusivity.
Totally. Totally. Love that answer. So I'm going to talk now about a woman by the name of Andrea Bordeaux. She teaches dark feminine wisdom and selfish bitch embodiment. And she had a really interesting article on her Substack that really caught my eye. And she titled it, "The Best Sex of My Life Led Me to Celibacy." So I was like, let me look at that. And so she talked about how she's only had two major relationships in her life. One was her husband, who she married at age 23, and then they divorced at age 29. And then 6 months later, she met her dark masculine man. And they were together for 2 years, and she says she had the most amazing, primal, primordial, cosmic sex with this man. But during that 2 year period, they also got into a lot of arguments and a lot of conflict. And eventually he broke up with her, and then they got back together a month later, and then they broke up again. And she's been celibate for the last 7 years. And so since she split with her dark masculine, she said that she did go on a dinner date with one man, but she knew right away that he wasn't gonna be as amazing in the bedroom as her dark masculine, so it didn't go any further. And then some years later, she did have sex once with another man, but again, she said the sex was meh. It was nowhere close to what she had with her dark masculine. And so, like a lot of women who break up with a dark masculine, she's been pretty much celibate for the last 7 years, not in a relationship. And so I just wanted to ask you about that. Do you think, okay, well, why do you think so many women become celibate after ending a dark masculine, a relationship with a dark masculine man?
Yeah, well, first of all, she wouldn't be considered a dark feminine,
Hmm.
right? So I heard what you're saying. She's teaching about the dark feminine, but based on what you described, somebody who's been celibate for 7 years and has not attracted other dark masculines into her life and does not use her sexuality as a way to transmute energy into her reality, it automatically disqualifies her from being a dark feminine. Okay.
Hmm.
In terms of why she's celibate, this happens to a lot of women. When you hear a lot of women say, "Hey, I'm celibate. I've been celibate for 2 years or 7 years or whatever," a lot of times it is following a dark masculine relationship. You see
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So what happened was they were with a dark masculine. They tried to impose like limiting monogamous beliefs on him. So they wanted to domesticate him. They wanted him to be a husband. They wanted him to be exclusive and all those things, right? And they missed the whole point of why they attracted him in the first place. They attracted him so that they could learn to be a dark feminine woman and come fully into your power, right? So with the women who become celibate after being with a dark masculine, they didn't complete that lesson.
Mm.
That's what happened. Like they left that situation hurt. They left that situation just, kind of shattered and broken, you know what I'm saying? And they didn't complete the lesson. And, chances are those women will end up, leaving this lifetime without really recovering from that.
Mm.
Because the dark feminine initiation is like a really intense initiation, right? So I want women to understand what I'm saying here. Like I want you all to understand that I have a very kind of keen understanding in terms of what you all go through. I know it's very, very difficult. I know it's very, very challenging. I know the emotions that you all go through are just crazy and super intense. You know what I'm saying? And I also know it feels like this is the only man in the world who can give you that feeling and then
Mm.
you can have connection with. Like I understand like that's a visceral response that's in your body and you feel strongly about that and you believe that to your core. And so I understand. I want women to know that I'm very clear on how intense and impactful these relationships are. That being said, um, most of the time, if you're not clear on what you're actually doing and why you attracted him, you're going to completely miss the mark and you're not going to develop into a dark feminine woman.
Mm.
And you're going to believe things like, I can't attract other men who are this powerful or even more powerful,
Mm.
or that, sex going forward should only be with him. Like you're gonna accept all these toxic beliefs. None of these things are true that she's saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What she had was a failed relationship.
Mm.
I'm 100% sure that the sex in that relationship was mediocre at best. Okay, I'm
Mm.
being very nice when I say that. And towards the end of the relationship, I'm sure the sex was probably either non-existent or poor.
Mm.
Okay, and so she left that relationship. That's a failed marriage. She left that relationship. She needed more. She wasn't activated. She wasn't fulfilled in that, and therefore she attracted a dark masculine. Right.
Mhm.
Um, Again, she tried to impose those same kind of monogamous and marital beliefs on top of that relationship, and you cannot do that with like 90% of the dark masculines out there. And she failed, and now she's hurt and broken as a result of it.
Mm.
So it's important. I want women to understand, you know when you come across women like this who tell stories like this, that these are not women in their power. They might be very loud in terms of
Mhm.
talking about stuff and teaching about stuff, but these are not powerful women. Powerful women are able to harness their relationship and connection with the dark masculine and utilize that to push their lives forward. And a lot of these dark feminines are able to have multiple dark masculine men.
Mm.
And it's not a negative thing. They understand how to manage that situation. They understand how to maintain the relationship. They understand how to maintain polarity inside of it. You see what I'm saying? Like that's what true power means as a dark feminine woman. So these women who retreat and kind of run from the dark masculine and run from relationships and run from sex and sexuality, which is like one of the most powerful tools the feminine being has on the planet. You see what I'm saying? To manifest her life and create her life, not just babies, but her life. You have to watch out for women like that.
Yeah. And it's so funny because women like that will always say, they often say that they have very high standards and that, these men who are unwilling to work on themselves can't meet their high standards. And that's why they're celibate. That's why they're alone because no one can meet their high standards. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely not. The high standards are an excuse that you give yourself for not having the power to attract the love and the connection and those types of things that you need and want. Again, I think in this culture, internet culture, social media culture, we kind of get away with the narratives that, you know, you want to be alone or you choose to be alone. That's not what's actually happening. What's actually happening is, you know, we see monogamous culture kind of crashing and being exposed for what it is. And then there's a lot of women and men out there who just they refuse to do the actual inner work required to manifest what they actually truly want, which is love. We all want love. Again, I go back to what we talked about in the very beginning. As human beings, we love to bond with each other. We love beautiful, loving bonds. We love sexual connections. We love, to support one another. We love to nurture one another. We love to protect. Like that's who we are as human beings. And that feels really good for us. You see what I'm saying? And so for people to say that they don't want that, no, it's not that you don't want that. You're still damaged and you're still hurt from what you experienced in your last relationship or last few relationships. And
Mhm.
you've kind of created a narrative, which is, well, I have high standards or high boundaries. And that's why, I can't find a man or can't find a woman. That's not the case at all.
Mhm.
You're not in your power. And therefore you can't attract and magnetize somebody who gives you the fulfillment you want, and you refuse to do the actual inner work. Inner work is not listening to podcasts or just talking loud. Inner work is like challenging the parts of you that need to be healed for real. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, like, what am I cultivating when it comes to love? What am I cultivating? What am I actually showing for when it comes to love and loving relationships and connections with the opposite sex? And when it comes to, brotherhood, and when it comes to sisterhood, that's the true measure. And a lot of people don't really have a lot to show for it. And that's fine. We're all at where we're at. You see what I'm saying? But to make excuses like I've got high standards and that's why I don't have brotherhood, or I have high standards and that's why I don't have love, and men in my life protecting me and looking out for me and making incredible love to me and those types of things, that's just a cop out.
Mhm. So she has a YouTube video which is titled Why Men Are Terrified of the Dark Feminine and Women Are Taught to Suppress Her. So she gave five or six reasons. I'm going to just go through each one quickly.
Okay.
So the first one, she says, the dark feminine, she does not ask for permissions. She is self-led. The dark feminine is the natural energetic leader. She's not looking for external leadership. She doesn't require external approval or validation. She doesn't dilute her self-expression. She does not people please, overgive, or perform. So is this something that men fear in women, in your opinion?
Well, just to correct one small thing that she said,
Okay.
the dark feminine is not a leader of men or
Okay.
or men in her relationship. She's just focused on herself.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, everything else she said in that statement is correct. Are men fearful or intimidated by that? Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of men, especially men who are not in their power, men who are not in their confidence, who are going to be, feel intimidated by that. Now, like a true dark masculine, he's looking for women like that. So a dark masculine man has no concern or fear or intimidation around women like that. We want women who are self-led. We
Mhm.
want women who know what they want. We want women who are coming to us voluntarily because they want to connect to us, not because they have some kind of weird need or insecurity or need for approval or whatever it is. We
Mhm.
want women who are in their power. Those relationships are amazing. When two solid, confident beings come together to make incredible love and to, enjoy, fulfillment and connection, that's exactly what we're looking for as dark masculines. So what the men she's talking about, these are like the red pill men community. These are men who don't have a lot of experience, who haven't worked on themselves, who don't walk inside their confidence, which, is going to be most people. Most people, both men and women, they're not going to want to do the work to really improve themselves in that way. And so, yes, those individuals will be intimidated by a dark feminine woman in that way.
Okay. So the second thing she says is that the dark feminine completely collapses male performance rooted fantasy. She's not the whore or the Madonna slash wife. She's not allowing herself to be a buffer for his projections. She doesn't need men to feel needed. And she also went on to say, you don't need a man in your life. They try to manipulate by telling you that you're too much or you're too masculine, etc. So is this a problem for men?
Well, everything she's saying there is true, except for the fact around not needing men. It's true she doesn't need men, but she deeply desires and wants men because
Mm.
she understands that that's the source of power and energy for her. And the dark feminine is a master alchemist and a master at transmuting, again, sexual energy, especially with a dark masculine, into what she needs to create the life that she wants.
Mhm.
And yeah, those things could be problems for men. You know what I mean? A lot of men, again, especially the men I'm talking about, the men who lack confidence, the men in the red pill community, et cetera, they
Mhm.
would be intimidated by a woman who doesn't need them in a particular way, or a
Mhm.
woman who's not performative. A dark feminine woman, she's going to insist that sex take place in a very particular way for her.
Mhm.
She's not looking to just, a lot of women, when they get in a relationship, they want to please the man in a particular way. And
Mhm.
they'll even put their needs in the back burner, or they'll even fake orgasms and stuff like that. A dark feminine woman will never do that. But
Mhm.
first of all, a dark feminine would never choose a man who needs that kind of performative, energy from her. She
Mhm.
would men who are in their confidence. You see what I'm saying? Like she's drawn to those types of men. Those men understand that, they are going to give and provide to her in a particular way to make sure she's pleased. Because the dark feminine, the dark masculine men know they're going to get what they need out of the situation either way. You see what I'm saying? And it's not just an orgasm or busting a nut. Actually, these men are going to receive the energy and what they need from her just by connecting with her. So this is a very powerful mutual bond that they have. And yes, there are some men who are going to be intimidated by the fact that she's not needy for them.
Mhm. Whew. Okay, number three, the dark feminine forces self-responsibility. Men who are blaming women or who have mother wounds will be required to rise to a higher frequency. And then she gave an example. Men who say, I want a woman to be my peace, like that's bullshit. A dark feminine is not here to be a man's peace. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree that a dark feminine is not there to be a man's peace. Now, a dark masculine man is going to find peace in a dark feminine. So, a dark feminine being who she is peaceful for him, right? Because, a dark feminine woman, she's not going to have a lot of the behaviors that we see a lot of women go through. A dark feminine woman's not checking her man's phone. She could give a fuck what he's doing. You see what I'm saying? Like, she's not going to be all, emotionally vomiting on him,
Ooh.
I'm saying, out of the container because it's really not that she's not insecure about herself. Women who do a lot of the emotional stuff and the emotional manipulation and the yelling and these waves of ups and downs and stuff like that. These are women who are more so on the insecure side and they're still cultivating, mature femininity within them, right? So that's just something that's very important to understand. But a dark masculine man, he's going to really enjoy being connected to a dark feminine woman in that way.
Mm.
Can you also repeat what's this whole thing? Because there was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot what you were saying.
The whole thing overall, the video was about men fear the dark feminine.
Men fearing the dark.
And then she was giving her reasons, her arguments.
The third one.
So that was the third one. The fourth thing here is, and there's
Oh,
overlap.
third one, the one you just read.
Oh, sorry.
The one you just read. Can you
The
read that
one I
again?
just read, she forces self-responsibility. Men who are blaming women or who have mother wounds will be required to rise to a higher frequency.
Yeah,
That's why they don't like the dark feminine because they can't come to her with their bullshit.
that's true. They can't come to her with any bullshit. But she's not going to force men to go to a higher frequency. The dark feminine woman is not interested in men who still have that kind of healing work to do. You see what I'm
Mm,
saying? So these men are similar to her, like the woman who put this out. Like she's going to end up, passing through this lifetime and not ever connecting with a powerful dark masculine ever again. You see
mm,
what I'm saying? And not having any kind of healthy relationships or healthy love connections or any of those types of things. No, these men are going to do the same thing. Like these men are not going to be forced to deal with their mother wounds because the dark feminine is not tolerating. The dark feminine is not interested in these men at all.
mm,
She is choosing strictly the cream of the crop. She's
mm,
not here for a men's healing. She could care less. And she's not here for women's healing either. She's
mm,
not here for sisterhood. She's not here to help women. She's not here to do any of that stuff. She could care less about what any of you all are talking about. She
mm,
is solely focused on her life, her mission, what she's looking to experience this lifetime. It doesn't mean that she won't have friendships and sisterhood and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure, yeah, dark feminine women have that, but she's not interested. She's not going to force her girlfriends, and her friends to up level and deal with their mother wounds and father wounds and stuff like that. She doesn't really care. You see what I'm saying? And so what happens is these individuals, like the men she's talking about, they'll end up just finding other women to deal with because they're not going to even be able to be in the field of a dark feminine woman.
mm. Whew, okay. She says men rely on disembodied people-pleasing overgiving to fulfill their subservient woman fantasy. The dark feminine is not a rescuer. She will not reassure or validate men.
Yeah, I agree with that. She's not going to connect with men who need reassurance or need validation. A dark feminine woman does not deal with those types of men. She deals with men who are in their power, in their confidence, who are sexually powerful,
Mm,
men who really can't be domesticated and don't want to be domesticated. She doesn't want a man that she can just come in and dominate. She wants a man who she can, have powerful connection with so that it can push her life forward.
mm. She says that she holds high standards, which men interpret as a punishment.
Um, No, again, this goes back to what I said before. Um, it's not that she has high standards, she's just very particular.
Mm,
She doesn't need standards. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Like a dark feminine woman doesn't operate based on standards and boundaries.
mm,
She's a dark feminine woman. Let me tell you something about dark feminine and the dark masculine. Like these individuals understand that they're attracting their like vibration. She operates the way she does because she knows that she's going to attract men who match her current vibration. So
mm,
what she does is she focuses on herself, she focuses on her magic and those types of things. And
mm,
she focuses on her life because she wants to attract a man who's the same way or complementary. So men who are focused on themselves and cultivating their greatness and cultivating their high sexual vitality. Like she wants those men in her life. She wants men who also cannot be controlled. She needs that raw, undomesticated kind of wild energy from the men,
mm,
right? So what the dark feminine does is she cultivates herself in a particular way so she can attract what she's looking for. The dark feminine understands that more than probably any of the other archetypes,
mm,
right? So she's not one of these women who thinks that it's her boundaries and standards that attract men to her and that kind of stuff. No, your boundaries and standards are actually preventing you from attracting the men that are at your current vibration,
mm.
your current match. You see what I'm saying? A dark
Wow.
woman doesn't need boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Like she's clear on what she wants. And she knows that the men that she attracts is going to match her perfectly. She understands that.
Wow. Just, whew. Okay. Number six. Her rage and full emotional expression, her intuition and erotic autonomy is considered dangerous or demonic.
Yeah, that could be true.
Okay.
I don't. She doesn't have any rage. I don't know where that's coming from. You know,
Okay.
that's not her emotion. That's
Huh.
the emotion warrior of the dark masculine.
Mm,
But yeah, her sexual autonomy. Again, we live, like I told you, we live in a religious situation where people are very, they're very critical of sexually free women. A dark feminine woman is sexually free. She gives a fuck what anybody's talking about or thinks about her at all, and she is having sex. That's what separates her from other women. Like she understands what sex is for. She
mhm,
understands how to alchemize it. You see what I'm saying? That she understands it's a critical piece of her alchemization process.
mm,
Again, she can do things on her own, and she does things on her own. She ritualizes on her own. She does her own ceremonies. She does her masturbatory exercises and rituals. She does all those things, but they pale in comparison to connecting with the dark masculine and
mm,
alchemizing that energy. Like we have to get away from this belief or concept that there's anything that can match
mm,
the levels of power and energy that a dark feminine and dark masculine create together
mm,
in their sexual union. You see what I'm saying? Like that is one of the heights of power and energy.
mm,
And the dark feminine, she utilizes that consistently. That's
mm,
why she has usually multiple dark masculines. Now,
mm,
again, they might not all be at the same level, but she usually has multiple dark masculines, even if some of them are just kind of on standby or whatever. So
mhm.
she knows exactly who she can connect with and what that's going to produce.
Wow.
So yes, because of the religious culture that we're in, yeah, a lot of men are going to demonize her for her free sexuality, but she doesn't care at all.
So I have to talk about rage again because you said that that's not the main emotion of the dark feminine, but a lot of women who are in relationship with a dark masculine man, they're extremely angry to the point where I had a client who her husband had separated from her. He left her in the United States. He went to Peru. And even from in Peru, like without her even sending her angry messages to him, like she didn't even text him or call him because she was listening to my advice, but he still told her. I can feel like the negative energy, like he could feel it all the way in Peru without her even texting him. So can you understand when people are saying the men fear the dark feminine because they think like just even her anger is like it's like daggers in your heart. You've experienced this yourself, Rakim, with an ex-girlfriend who was upset with you for whatever reason, and you said your wife psychically picked up that there were daggers in your back. So do men have a fear about this?
Well, let's be clear. If the woman you're talking about is not a dark feminine.
Okay.
If she's rageful in that way, she's not a dark feminine.
Mm,
Again, dark feminine women are more action based. Like she's going to take, let's say she's going through something that is hurtful, that her dark masculine does or her man does or whatever, right? She
Mhm.
is going to feel the hurt and the pain around that, but rage is not going to be her emotional response.
Mhm.
You know, maybe some depression, like, and not depression in a negative sense, but like her going within. Like dark feminine women are masters of going within.
Mhm.
So her emotions bring her inside of her. Anger is a warrior emotion. Anger causes you to lash out at the thing that triggers you. You see what
Mhm.
I'm saying? That's why anger is associated with external and physical violence. So
Mhm.
no, a dark feminine woman is not doing that. So the women that you're describing, the women who get angry, these are not women who've completed the initiation of coming into their dark feminine. They're still in their little girl kind of persona. And
Mhm.
until they learn to transmute that properly and tap into some other emotions and to manage their men in a
Mhm.
particular way, like if she was a dark feminine woman, she would just do the magic required to bring her guy home or to be there with him or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing though, Rakim, like even though you're saying anger isn't really the thing for the dark feminine, the anger has actual like real life effects. And I remember speaking to, one of your clients inside Pantheon, and she was saying like when she's really upset with her dark masculine, with more than one dark masculine, like things happen, like his car will break down, or a black cat will just all of a sudden jump in front of him and try to kill him. Like real life actual effects from her anger.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not saying that these women don't have psychic effect on the environment around them, but
Mhm.
like you described, is she intend for those things to happen? No. So she's out of control.
Okay.
Again, a dark feminine woman is not, her magic is not out of control. Her
Mhm.
magic's not going to burn her own house down. Her magic's not going to, kill a guy that she doesn't want to be killed. You see what I'm saying? Like these are women who, again, they haven't mastered their magic, they haven't mastered their power, and it's just kind of running rampant. That's what most women. That's how most women are. Most women, they allow their emotions to negatively impact their environment and people around them.
Mhm.
That's why men have a hard time inside relations with a lot of women, is because these women get very emotional. The emotional ignites a certain aspect of their psychic abilities and their magic,
Mhm.
and it ends up doing damage to her, to him, to the children, to the family, to the money, all types of things. So again, these are women who are not in their power. These are not dark feminine women. Yes, women are getting angry. Yes, women are getting emotional, but these are not powerful women. These are women who's, I used to talk about this. I used to say, like the woman is like a nuclear generator inside the house.
Okay.
And if couples and men don't learn to manage her properly, right, and care for her properly, then she'll just destroy the entire structure.
Oh,
I
wow.
should talk about like how in the black community, how I would say, like when you look at the black community and kind of how it's run down, to me, it's the marker of um, women's psychic energy of negatively affecting the community
Mm.
just because they're sad or because they're not being taken care of or not they're not being treated, like whatever it is. You see what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
people don't understand, like a lot of the things that you see going around you from an environmental standpoint is the effect of psychic energy and the effects of emotion having an impact on the physical surroundings. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I agree that the woman you're talking about is emotional as hell, but
Mhm.
her magic is not under her control.
Mhm.
She's destroying everything around her. And so, yeah, men should be worried and concerned and fearful of a woman like that. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Because she can kill you. And a lot of men have died at the hands of women in that way. Like women, they're very powerful beyond even what they're willing to acknowledge.
Mhm. You may have heard of this woman. Her name is Ma'at Petrova. She's very successful, a
Yeah, I know.
multi-billionaire
I
at
just,
this point. Yeah, from Atlanta. And she had a video where she was saying when she finally made the decision to decenter men, that was when she made $1.2 million in a year. So, your thoughts?
yeah, that is so when she's saying decentering, what she's actually saying is, she talks also about being abstinent, right? So she talks about that journey, right?
Mhm.
Oftentimes if you're a woman and you are in a abusive relationship, right? Which she was married before in a situation with somebody before, and
Okay.
she kind of came out of that. and you kind of like keep your energy to yourself,
Hmm.
right? So not only in the form of absence, but actually pouring into yourself and pouring into your business and your focus, then yeah, that energy can go into those things and help you make money. This is not like a decentering thing. This is like a lot of men talk about this. Like there's this guy, I forget the guy's name, short guy, black guy with green eyes. He's married to the woman that had the jumping jack tax business, and they got sued by the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But he talks about the same thing about how he was able to start making a ton of money when he stopped having sex,
Oh.
right? So yeah, you can transmute, a lot of that energy if you're focusing on business and if you're focused on a particular goal. So
Mm.
that's the thing you do. Muhammad Ali said before he had a fight, he would abstain from sex for 6 months. You see what I'm saying? While he was training. Why? Because the releasing of, sexual fluid for men, especially, that can be draining to men, especially if you don't know how to pull energy from the woman while you're making love to her. You see what I'm saying? And the same thing with women. Like a lot of women, they don't have sex in a very empowering way. So
Yeah.
you talked earlier about how women are very performative and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, when you stop doing that, you see what I'm saying? And you focus on your goals and dreams, you're going to see advancement. But again, just we need to understand part of the issue wasn't that you were having sex. The issue was that you were being performative
Mm.
and you weren't feeding yourself. And you were, being with somebody who wasn't feeding and pouring back into you. So yeah, obviously when you get out of that situation, then, things are going to improve for you. But,
Mhm.
when you look at her over the long term, the question is, was she able to sustain that? You know what I'm saying? Like, was she able to sustain that level of success? And the answer is no. And the reason why is because, you know, that's only really a short-term thing. You have to get back into the sexuality and cultivate that energy again before you can begin to cut it off and transmute it.
Mm.
So when you look at a lot of people who do the long-term abstinence, they don't have the same success that they had in that first year. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, wow. So you had a very controversial reel where I had asked you, what's the solution for women who are in relationship with a dark masculine man? And you suggested that the woman should, she should have what you call a support choice or a king or a domesticated man that, was with her all the time. And also have her dark masculine man. Like she should have both men. And that kind of set off a shitstorm for a few people on your page. And there was a man on there, and he was saying, "Well, what you're recommending isn't really fair to her secure partner, her king, her domesticated man." So I'm going to read what he said. He says, "This is exactly the logical solution, but the way that the human ego slash emotions work, particularly the feminine in this example, is she'll sabotage the poly solution too. It would seem in order for that solution to work, she'll need to be able to show up for the secure attachment and then have the tools to deal with the anxious one. And she won't. Her anxiety from the dark masculine will have her in a spiral, and she'll neglect and destroy the secure relationship as well. Conversely, though some tools may be different, if she's able to master the tools to deal with the dark masculine, then she won't need the poly solution to begin with. That doesn't even make sense. How can the secure foundational attachment be chosen just as an anchor to pursue stormy ones? So you're spending your gold to buy your silver? That's ass backwards. I'd like your thoughts on that, Rakim.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of everything he's talking about. Number one, who we are as human beings and sexual beings is dynamic. So a lot of times your secure attachment, which we will call a support choice,
Mhm.
is your anchor,
Mhm.
right? But your anchor is not going to be able to fulfill you as a woman in all ways. He'll be able to provide protection, some provision, those types of things, like really solid companionship, hopefully be able to hold space for your emotions, those types of things. But he's not going to be like your primary sexual activator, right? And so if you're an intelligent man, you understand that, okay, well, my wife is going to need to be, powerfully activated
Mhm.
by probably a dark masculine, right? And that, yeah, there's going to be a time period where she's going to have some emotional dysregulation. But that's a part of it. That's a part of loving her. In the same way, she's going to have emotional dysregulation inside the home, like a lot of monogamous situations. There's a lot of emotional ups and downs. with the
Mhm.
men and the women. A lot of yelling, a lot of arguing, a lot of domestic violence. So the emotional dysregulation is a part of relationships, is a part of just being a human being on the planet. Yeah, you're going to have the tools to help support her as she's going through that. So if she's crying about her dark masculine or whatever, you need to be able to support her the best way you can as her secure attachment. You
Mhm.
know, again, the monogamous cultural mindset is that you should only need one person,
Mhm.
and that's not true. You know, the, the the truth is we need multiple people for our fulfillment. You know,
Mhm.
that's just it's kind of like common sense. It's interesting I even have to say that, which I understand that I do because of the culture we live in. But no, we need multiple people. Just man, you I can't tell you how many women I talk to who are in secure attachment relationships and
Mhm.
they are struggling, man. They love their husband, they love their family, everything they built, but it is not enough. And
Mhm.
they have to go back and forth between this decision. Should I leave my husband? Again, remember the divorce rate, 70% of women are initiating divorces. They're going to leave their husband and
Mhm.
they will choose to be the side woman to a dark masculine
Yeah.
because that's how bad they want that dark masculine energy. That's how bad they want that sexual activation. So
Mhm.
it shouldn't have to be like that. You shouldn't have to leave your husband to go get activated by a dark masculine or have other types of connections. And
Mhm.
I'm really asking people to be intelligent in terms of how we look at this. Part of the emotional regulation is men not feeling hurt that you cannot be her all and everything. You see
Ooh.
what I'm saying? Men
Yeah.
refuse to look at their lack of emotional regulation.
Mm.
Their desire to possess women, their desire to, live in the fantasy of romantic relationships and exclusivity and all these types of things. Like, no, you're just emotional as she is when she's dysregulated by her dark masculine.
Mm.
Why are you not able to look at this from a human being perspective and see that she has particular needs? And if you love this woman and you want to see the best for her, and she's saying this is something that she needs, then why wouldn't you support her in that? Oh, because your emotions are too high.
Mm.
You're emotionally regulated as a man and you can't handle it.
Mm.
No, you need to go find the tools to regulate your own emotions. And that's the issue with a lot of these people talking about exclusivity. Like I get it. Like I love exclusivity. I don't have any issues with it. I feel it can be most successful when it's approached from a polyamorous perspective, meaning from the rules and communication and tools of polyamory. But um, the culture of monogamy is highly based on emotional dysregulation.
Mm.
These are people who are emotionally mature. They have a lot of insecurity that they haven't dealt with, and that's why, you know, somebody cheating is the end of their world and the end of the relationship, and cause to break up a family and cause to start over financially. Like it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like these are all emotional responses based
Mm.
on dysregulation. It's ridiculous.
So I came across a very healthy and beautiful response, and this is from one of your partners by the name of Hasina. And as far as I understand, she's very polyamorous. And she said, I totally agree because I have not decentered men from my life. I date them all. And I place them in the best fitting role possible for success in our relationship. So I had to screenshot that because that was just like, whoa,
Uh,
like that was a lot of energy. Like, whoa.
yeah, Asina is sexually empowered.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And she's been married for 30 plus years, and she also is polyamorous and does her own thing. And
Mhm.
she did the inner work, man. Like she worked for I was a personal witness to her doing the work to like really cultivate herself, cultivate her marriage, work with her husband. She considered leaving him a number of times. You see what I'm saying? And she really dug in and did the work. And now she's living the benefit, or she's been living the benefits of that for a number of years now, but she's living the benefits of it and having a great life. She connects with a number of different men that she chooses to do. And that's what you get when you actually do the inner work. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
But it takes that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I'm so proud of her. And they have 5 children together.
Yeah.
I'm so proud they stayed together. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? But a lot of women they're very intimidated by a woman like her.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Because not only because she's living her absolute best life, but she's got the best of all the worlds. Like I said, a 30 plus year marriage, 5 children, beautiful children, great husband, loving husband, the whole thing, and they're still sexual and the whole thing. And she's also able to connect with other men.
Mm,
And a lot of women, that's just, they can't even conceive of something like that. You know what
mm,
I'm saying? It's so intimidating to be able to have all the things that you want in life, and to see somebody doing it, it's triggering. You see what I'm
mm,
saying? He to me is a perfect example. And there's a number of women who are living that way. The issue is that on social media, the people who talk the loudest are the people who are not able to create or manifest the life that they want. So these are like the women you just talked about. I forget the dark feminine coach's name, but no, she's not living a life that she dreams and desires of. But she's very loud and very
mm,
voiceless and very good at what she does in terms of teaching and coaching other women. But no, there's you got to understand, and the thing is, I deal with these women on a regular basis, like married women with money, businesses, husbands, children, and lovers. You
mm,
see what I'm saying? Who are truthful and honest about who they are, and who are managing all these relationships, and are, what I'm saying, enjoying love and protection of multiple men and the whole thing. Like, this is this is one of the new paradigms we're moving into when we talk about the empowered woman.
yeah.
And it's not like, a lot of times when people talk about matriarchy, it's really just women wanting to replace, like, swap positions with men and what they perceive that men have. So it's still the same patriarchal system, but
Mhm.
women are in charge. She's like, women are all the CEO, women are the president. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that's what a lot of people are looking for. But the reality is, the solution is, and what we're going towards is a more empowered, um, state of being for men and for women, where
Mhm.
women can actually be their authentic self. They're not afraid to say what they want. They're not afraid to bring it to their husband. They're not afraid to work through the challenges and the issues. They're not afraid to do the healing work, which is very difficult, very challenging at times, very scary at times. They're not afraid to face the shadow self. You see what I'm saying? And,
Yeah.
and look at that clearly, and embrace the shadow. They're not afraid to do all this stuff. They're not afraid to learn about the dark feminine or the enlightened feminine or the divine feminine. You see what I'm saying? Or learn about the divine masculine, or learn about the dark masculine. You see
Mhm.
what I'm saying? They're not afraid of, or the enlightened man. They're not afraid of these things. Like, this is the new paradigm we're moving into.
Mhm.
And I know it's a lot of work, but I'm sorry. This is just the culture we manifested into at this time. We manifested into not a patriarchal system, but a Western European capitalistic, religious, monogamous based system that's based on ownership and hierarchy, and the concept of right or wrong. And this, we're experiencing the downfall of that system, and the fallout from it. And you have to figure something else out, and that's what we're talking about with the new paradigm of relationships today.
So I recently came across a reel about toxic semen, and it was a young black woman, and she was saying that so many women have had sex and or gotten pregnant by an abusive man, and their toxic sperm is now like a parasite. She went on to say toxic sperm will destroy your uterus. It will give you recurring yeast infections. It will give you recurring bacterial vaginosis. It will throw off your pH and have you itching. It would also give you fibroids. And that's just the biological negative effects. It will also fuck you up emotionally. And so she was kind of warning women, like, be very careful with these men because once they ejaculate their semen in you, like, they're going to destroy you. Your thoughts, Rakim?
Yeah, that shit is crazy. So, um, I mean, again, I agree that as a woman, you need to be clear and intentional about who you allow into your body and why. You see what I'm saying? Like, so that goes without saying. Anybody who's not doing that, that's, you got a whole set of separate issues. The truth, though, is that these women, they chose these men. You see what I'm saying? And in the case that's being talked about here, they're having raw ejaculatory sex with these men.
Mhm.
Okay. So here's the thing that people don't understand. A woman, because I've heard this about, like, women talking about, well, you take on a man's DNA and it's kind
Mhm.
of a part of you and affected you and all that. So just time out. A woman's body is built to absorb the DNA from multiple men and turn that into a refined product that she's going to pass down to her children, her offspring, and use for herself. Like, her body is built for that. Her body is A woman's body is like, I don't know what the term is, maybe you know the term, but when you add things to a particular pot and then it's transmuted into, like, this kind of like golden powerful substance. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay.
a woman's body is actually built for that.
Yeah.
So this whole thing, like the more men you have sex with and you take on their DNA, the more crazy you are. No, your
Mhm.
body is built to do that as a woman. Like a woman's body is so powerful. Like that's part of the issue I have with some of this commentary is it comes from a religious kind of spin
Yeah.
and a sexual spin. But the truth of the matter is that, a woman's body is built to transmute all of these, DNA strands and all of these, the essence of all these men, and turn it into a more powerful elixir. In addition to that, one of the ways that we as human beings, develop things like stronger immune systems and, just stronger systems in general is through this interaction with each other, right? So as a woman takes on more of, a man's fluid or whatever, or multiple men's fluid, that's literally making her body physically stronger.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's making her more resistant to disease. It's making her more resistant to, anything else out there, like pollutants and stuff like that. It's also making her more intelligent. She's converting those codes, right? That information into something that makes her more intelligent, something that makes her stronger, something that makes her more of an elevated being.
Mhm.
So, people are looking at it from the wrong perspective. They're looking from like a religious church perspective. That's not the case. Like I
Yeah.
think a lot of more research needs to be done about the truth of how a woman's body is able to transmute all these chemicals and all these essences and turn into something that's actually absolutely magical.
Mhm. Wow. Let's now talk about Queen Afua. And she says that random intercourse is a danger to the soul. And she then gives a history of this, and she says that it began with the Willie Lynch syndrome. And she talked about how during American slavery, there were these slave breeding plantations. And what they would do is they would find, the black man, that has the biggest penis and the biggest, the most testosterone and what have you. And then all the black slave women would have to have sex with him and get pregnant by him. And so she's saying like this patterning is still happening today. You have all these women chasing after the big black buck, with the big black penis, and that man is no good. And so like she's saying like we can't keep doing this. Like we have to break from the Willie Lynch syndrome. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I disagree with it. Obviously, Queen Afua is someone who isn't really. I don't even know the last time she's probably been sexually active or had a healthy sexual relationship with a man. Um, Number one, I don't believe that women have random sex. Like women in general are very selective.
Mhm.
Like that's a part of like women have this this kind of radar system. I was talking to somebody. Yeah, I was talking to one of my clients,
Mhm.
and she was saying like, yeah, like I ran to, an old friend, he was grown, making money, like amazing body, but I just knew he wasn't going to be able to do anything for me sexually. You see what I'm saying? Similar to what this other lady said, the dark feminine woman you were talking about earlier. Like
Mhm.
she went on a date with a guy, but she knew it wasn't going to be anything.
Yeah.
Like women, you all are not random. There's nothing random about a woman. Women are very intentional, man.
Mhm.
You are now again. I know there's periods and women go through stuff or whatever where they might not be as inside their power and intentionality, but in general, women are very intentional. So I don't see women as having just random sex, right? Now, again, maybe parts of their life or whatever they might go through that, but in general, women don't do that.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't even know what that concept is. Number
Well,
two,
okay, all right.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, she's saying, well, they got the man, the basically like a dark masculine man with a big penis to fuck all the black women and impregnate them so that they could produce healthy, strong, more slave children. And so she's saying
Yeah,
this is
but that
still okay.
I'm just saying, like, no, there are. That's true. They did have those slave breeding plantations,
Mhm.
but that doesn't erase the fact that women that the female of any species is always seeking a certain type of male of the other species and sees that male as like a really solid breeding partner.
Mhm.
You understand?
Mhm.
So that's what's happening when women are seeking like the big man
Mhm.
or the dark masculine man or the warrior type man or the man with confidence or the man is a certain height or whatever. Like that's really just that's in her genetic programming to seek that type of male.
Mm,
Now, again, the issue in terms of like her saying, well, these men are no good. No, that's the issue, is that you're trying to fit the men into Western cultural narratives around romance and sex. These men were never meant to be domesticated partners. They were never meant to be husbands.
mm,
The reason why you're attracted to them is because there's a program and an intelligence within you that's telling you, look, if we procreate with this particular man, we're going to produce an offspring with the highest level of intelligence, the highest level of immunity. You see what I'm saying? The highest level of probability of survival, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the program running within inside of all women. You
mm,
all have, you're just in tune with that type of thing.
mm,
Again, what the issue is that we don't have enough like intelligent women who are communicating with the younger generation and being truthful to them to say, look, you're going to have attractions to men. Let me break down the different types of attractions. That's the choice paradigm. You see what I'm saying? Some of these men are going to be a purely sexual attraction. You're going to feel it inside your womb. We call it a womb choice,
yeah.
right? Those men are not the men that you should try to settle down with and make your husband. I'm
Mm,
not saying it can never happen, but if you're making that your focus, or if he's resistant to that, you need to just allow yourself to enjoy whatever you can with him. Take those gifts, take those lessons, take that sexual healing, and move on. Now,
mm,
there's another kind of attraction called support choice, which I think your guy was called more a secure attachment.
mhm,
So the support choice, like this is a man you should look for to create family with and create long-term partnership with. It's not going to be as strong as a sexual attraction or
mhm,
sexual connection, but it's not supposed to be,
mm,
because these situations with the strong sexual connection, like they're not really sustainable for the long term. You
mm,
see what I'm saying? They're not meant to be. The strong sexual connections and attractions are meant for the purpose of procreation
mm,
and mating and producing offspring, not for long term 50, 60-year relationships and family building. That's
mm,
not what they're meant for. Again, it's not that that can't happen, but they're not meant for that. So again, like not understanding there's certain programs running within us, it just we're shorting ourselves and we're shorting our children from the truth and reality of what it means to be a human being. And what the other issue around is, it also keeps us from the actual tools that can help us manage these aspects within ourselves.
mm,
Like women need to be taught, well, how do I handle when I have an oxytocin spike with a particular man? It's like, okay, well,
mm,
here's the tools to handle that. Or how do I handle the fact that I have multiple attractions? Or how do I handle the fact that I have a husband, right, that I love and want to be with, but I also have attractions to somebody? Like
yeah.
women need tools for that. They don't need to be shamed into don't fuck this man, don't be with him. Like that's women are never going to follow that narrative and follow that type of thing. Like some women will, right? Because religion has always scared women to kind of being performative and being absent and stuff like that. So religion's always had an impact on women,
Mhm,
but women overall, in a large number, are never going to not connect with the men that they want to connect with. It's never happening. So we got to just stop that narrative.
yeah. There is a lady by the name of Sasha Cobra. She was trained by Shantam Nityama. She's very popular on Instagram. And she was saying how like a lot of women, they don't regard vaginal intercourse as the main course because they don't really even enjoy it. And so what's happening is the women are insisting on having their pussy eaten out before they have vaginal intercourse because that way at least they know they'll get some enjoyment. And so Sasha was saying, like, no, like vaginal intercourse is the main course. So it just shocked me when I saw that. So I thought I'd share that with you. Any thoughts on that, Rakim?
Absolutely. You know what's interesting is I had a conversation just last night,
Okay.
right, with a young lady I used to date. I consider her to be like a spiritual wife,
Hmm.
and but she's fully lesbian. Like she doesn't date men at all,
Okay.
and except for me if I want to date her. But she was saying, she said, "Look, Raquel, I'm going to tell you the truth about something." Yeah, because I was asking about eating pussy. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? Because she gave me some pointers, and because she's a lesbian, like a hardcore lesbian, like she really like showed me some stuff or whatever.
Okay.
So I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, give me some pointers." She said, "Let me tell you something, Rakim. Women don't really give a fuck about getting their pussy ate." I'm like, "What? What the hell are you talking about?" Like, I've been with too many women. She's like, "Yeah, I know, but just so you know, like, even me as a lesbian, it's not the main thing." at all. She says these women want me to put the strap up in them. You
Mm,
see what I'm saying? That's what they're waiting for. They want to feel that girth and
mm,
that strap up inside of them. And I was like, man, that's fascinating. It's the first time I've ever heard a woman say that.
mm,
But it made me think to a lot of my current relationships and past relationships. The women have always said, so I said, look, if I just want to eat your pussy and make you come from that, like eating your pussy and fingering you, is that cool?
mhm.
And women, all the women were like, no, like you feel free to rock and eat my pussy, finger me, make me, but you have to get the dick after. They've all said that. I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, fuck. Because as a man, like I'm cool if I just get ahead with no intercourse.
Mm,
But like, that made me think. So when she told me that, I'm like, man, okay, that helps me make a lot of sense of some other stuff I've heard over the years. And don't get me wrong, she's not saying women don't enjoy getting their pussy ate out, but
mhm,
she's saying it's not really a thing that women really want. It's nowhere near the main thing. So
mm,
I agree with Tasha Cobra. And the other thing too is that goes with that is like, women need to master their sexuality so that they're actually enjoying, vaginal
mhm,
penetration intercourse with a man
mhm.
and being orgasmic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a training that goes along with that.
Mhm,
And like this part of your initiation as a woman to get to a point where you own your sex, you own your intercourse,
mhm.
where you're having orgasms every time, no matter who you're with, no
Yeah.
matter what the penis size is, the
Mhm.
length, the girth, or who it is. Like you're going to have pleasure and be able to get something out of that. So that's my message around that.
Yeah, and I think like for a lot of women, because intercourse is so violent, they just feel like there's no way for it to be enjoyable. And you have to, what my recommendation is like let go of the idea that it has to be fast and rough and violent. Like because when I first had vaginal orgasm with a man, um, all he did was put his finger in me. He didn't even move. He didn't do anything. Nothing, 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 nothing. And I just couldn't stop orgasming on his finger,
Nice.
and then he did that with his penis. And it was just like he wasn't moving. So,
Absolutely.
that's what women need. Like the man doesn't even need to move.
Yes, that's true. The first person I heard talk about that was Master Sunyata Saraswati. He's the author of the book called The Jewel and the Lotus, which
Mhm.
is probably one of the top selling Tantra books of all time.
Yeah.
And he used to say, like, the way people have sex in the West, he called it mutual masturbation.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, a lot of folks they get their cues for what sex is by watching porn.
mhm.
And porn is entertainment, it's performative.
Yeah.
Like it's meant to keep your attention and hold your attention. In order for it to do that, you got to do all these like tricks, and what I'm saying, different positions and make it rough. And what I'm saying, like that's just to,
Mhm.
to keep you watching the show. You see
Mhm.
what I'm saying? But the reality is like the most powerful sex I have, like I'm not moving that much.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like when I do the tantra, I just did a tantra retreat over the weekend. I did a lot of energy work and the women are having orgasms and I'm not even touching them physically.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole idea that we have around, what pleasure is and what sexuality is completely warped. That's why I was trying to help people understand, like, we live in a Western, European culture, and that's their thing to bring that violence of sexuality,
Mm,
that animalistic aspect of sexuality. But that's not, people, indigenous cultures in the world were not all like that. A lot of them were more tantric. They understood like just their powerful energy coming together was going to be very orgasmic and very pleasurable. And so we have a lot of relearning to do around our sexuality.
yeah. I want to talk about a reel that I saw where this woman was saying that these men who are asking for polyamory, they don't, if you don't have a lot of money, if you can't even afford one woman financially, you shouldn't even be talking about polyamory. And so she used the term poly pimping, for these men who like, you don't have any money or you have very little money, but you're talking about having multiple women. Like, who do you think you are? And also, Yada Awakening, I have to always mention him. He says, men are the real gold diggers. They want a woman to cook, clean, work full time, raise kids, have sex on demand, and still go 50-50. That's not a partner. That's unpaid labor. So what are your thoughts about, these male gold diggers and men who they don't really have any money, but they feel that they should be entitled to multiple women?
Well, let me skip you out of for a second.
Okay.
Woman is saying this again. That narrative is just it's wrong and incorrect and played out. So again, I know a lot of people in this culture. Their focus is on money
Hmm.
and vision. The hard part that a lot of women and men are having with the women's empowerment movement is women's empowerment means being able to make money too.
Hmm.
Like a lot of women today, one of my clients, she sent me a video that she was on because she's considered one of the top business women in her city,
Hmm.
right? So they did like a whole thing on her and these other women. And um, like that to me is a part of women's empowerment. Like a lot of women are making a lot of money, man.
Hmm.
And they are like pursuing their dreams and they're pursuing their passions and they're traveling and they're buying property all over the world. Like that girl, I forget her name, Keith Lease or something. She's bought like 300 acres of land in Kenya
Oh
that
yeah,
she's doing
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. Like, so, like it's not, there's this whole thing about the man needing to provide, like that's the old paradigm of relationships.
Mhm.
And again, if you're a woman and you want a man to provide, that's great. You can do that. But to expect that, like that's what a man is or that's required for a relationship, that is not true. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're not able to make money or you refuse to make money or you refuse to follow your passion or your dreams or you refuse to step into your power and that kind of stuff doesn't mean that, you have to put it on men. You see
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So no, like the whole thing about, a man's only value and the only way he should have multiple partners if he has a lot of money is completely stupid. No,
Mhm.
my only value as a man is not in my what I bring to the table from a financial standpoint. Like
Mhm.
I bring a lot more to the table than that around my sexuality, around my knowledge, my wisdom, my ability to increase women and help them be, more financially successful and more powerful and healed and all this. Like there's so much I bring to the table. My ability to be present with women.
Mhm.
Like I've had women say to me, like, yeah, Rakim, when you're with me, like I feel like nobody else exists.
Mhm.
Like you're not on your phone all the time, you're not talking to other women, you're not doing any of that kind of stuff. Like that's like women, a number of women find value in that,
Mhm.
like a man who can actually be present with them and like hold space for them and their connection. So again, this whole thing around if a man doesn't have money, if he's not valuable or whatever, is completely and totally stupid. No, there's a lot of men who are polyamorous. They're not rich or have a lot of money, but they're going to be valued by a lot of women, and they're going to have a lot of women, and that's the way it's always going to be. So no
Mhm.
matter what these people are talking about and trying to put on men or whatever, that's not the case. In terms of Yada talking about men are the gold diggers, there
Mhm.
are a lot of men who are gold. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, not in the case that he's talking about, but there's a lot of men like Offset. You talking about Offset and Cardi B? He's
Yeah.
basically a gold. You see
Uh,
what I'm saying? Like
okay.
him asking 70% of Cardi B's money and net worth. That's just criminal. You see what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Like you want 50-50, okay, fine. But 70-30, you're a gold digger. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of men who are like that. The Mary J. Blige's ex-husband, I would consider him to be a gold digger. Like a lot of men are out there, they're gold diggers. Or they rely on women financially. But guess what? A lot of women like to be in that position. We talked about this on the last podcast. A lot of women want to control the finances in their house. They don't want them to be able to jump on a plane tomorrow and go to the Bahamas or go to the Dominican or you see what I'm saying, or go to Brazil. They want to be the ones who say yay or nay in terms of what money is spent and why. So just like men want to control through finances, a lot of women want to control through finances too. So yes, you'll have males who are gold diggers and you'll have females who are gold diggers. It's not a gender thing.
Wow. So, last night on your live stream, you were talking about community, and you were saying that amongst African Americans, descendants of slaves in America, that there's still this deep-seated trauma or expectation that if if and when Black people come together in like, a town or a city, and everyone is actually thriving financially. You were saying that a lot of African Americans have this fear embedded in them that that is not safe. Like Black communal wealth is not safe because those communities, not all of them, there's still those that exist even today, but many successful, thriving Black communities were destroyed by white Americans. So how would you recommend that African American people go about healing this fear?
That's a great question. The fear is real. I
Mhm.
mean, I have the fear.
Mm,
Okay. So I have a fear of creating like a black community with all black people and
mm,
it being thriving because, of our history in this country.
mm,
That's why when they used to talk about like back in the day, like black people in America going back to Africa, I'm like, no way.
mm.
There's no way. Not because I don't like Africa or whatever. I don't want to be segregated from, European culture where I could just be openly attacked.
Yeah.
To me, if all black people move to Africa, you know, a few weeks after that, we can expect a nuclear bomb to drop on that motherfucker. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's no way. No, I'm living amongst all y'all. You see what I'm saying? It's the only safe space to be in.
Mm,
So again, for people who don't know, like our history here in America is when black people came together in community, we were always attacked. Our
yeah.
our homes burnt down, our communities burnt down, attacked, bombed, people killed, shot, lynched by the hundreds.
Flooded,
All
flooded,
the
whole towns flooded.
entire towns flooded. We talked about Lanier Lake in Georgia, which is north of Atlanta. Like just so it's so much. You see what I'm saying? So it's a real trauma that we have as black people. I agree it needs to be healed. I'm not even in a place right now where I necessarily want to heal that just yet.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, it's something that we need to heal because we should be able to come together as black people. I was talking on my live about there's this black man in Texas who he had a lot of black people moving to this one town in Western Texas, and the state attorney general Ken Paxton sued him.
mhm.
So the attorney general of Texas is going after this guy, and they didn't really do anything wrong. It's just a bunch of black people living there. You see what I'm saying? In this one town, and they became the majority in that town. And so you see that kind of racial violence in America all the time. It's a real trauma a lot of us deal with still today.
The thing is, though, there are many uh, wealthy black towns and cities. Well, I don't know about cities, but towns in America right now. There are some. So
Not
how
town,
okay,
but communities.
okay,
Um, and if it is a town, it's poor as hell, right?
okay.
So one of the ways you can get away with it is if you're in a poor. So there's a lot of towns, for example, Mississippi, that are primarily black, but they're destitute.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing happening, no technology, no abundance, no prosperity,
mm,
right? Heavy church influence, heavy liquor store influence, like that kind of stuff.
mm,
So if the town is occupied in that way, then it'll be allowed to thrive. What I'm usually talking about is like communities and neighborhoods. So the example I gave last night was Hagerstown, Maryland, where that community there's a lot of black neighborhoods and communities, and it ended up getting flooded with drugs. And I was telling the people I was talking to over the weekend, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like it was just intentional.
mm,
Like they brought drugs into that community intentionally to disrupt the prosperity that the black people were experiencing.
mhm. Why do you think that black communal wealth or prosperity is a threat to European Americans?
That's a great question. I feel it's just an insecurity within them.
Mhm,
I do believe that there's this guy, his name is Graham Hancock. He talks about just like ancient culture, ancient civilization. But one thing he talks about is like he believes that there was a major cataclysmic event that took place, about 11, 12,000 years ago.
mhm,
And he feels that the whole human race is still traumatized by that. You see
mm,
what I'm saying? So like some kind of like asteroid hitting the planet or some kind of major ice thing or polar shift, like something happened where like millions of humans died, tens of millions, like we were almost wiped out, and that traumatized us as a species, and we carry that trauma. You see what I'm saying? Like
mm,
somebody was doing some research and they said they found, like especially in European Americans, they found where the trauma exists at the base of their spine,
mm,
and they were saying that's why European Americans have a hard time like moving in rhythm and dancing and stuff like that because the trauma is like a physical thing and it like prevents them from being able to move in certain ways. So
wow.
like historically always tease white people about not being able to dance and stuff like that, but the real reason why they can't do that and have a hard time getting into rhythmic stuff is because they carry a trauma. That trauma probably comes from, you know, being close to genetically annihilated. And
Mm,
so The bottom line is when you look at, Black genetics, that I can see that being a threat. I can see Europeans being having some insecurity around that,
Mhm.
which is like the fuel of their racism. And so whenever they see Black people gathering and having success and stuff like that, I can see that some of them being threatened by it.
So going back to my question, how is it that some of these communities are thriving today?
Well, I believe that you can have a thriving Black community if it's not really conscious.
Oh.
So if it's basically, fully accepting and embracing of Western values,
Mm.
if it's, you know, if it's not conscious where they're actually pulling money together and pulling resources, most of these Black communities you're talking about, like maybe PG County in Maryland, heavy church and Christian community. So,
Mm.
if most of the members of the community are part of the church, then, there's not going to be much of a threat there. You know what I'm saying? Of anything like really substantial or worthwhile happening. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's like stuff like that.
Mm.
But these communities are also like PG County, the Black communities in PG County are also on a decline. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? A lot of these communities that you're talking about or that used to exist, they are on a decline. And a
Mm.
lot of it is targeted. Like in America, I'm not sure if you watch the news, but the first thing Trump did when he came in office is he started laying off government workers.
Mhm.
Well, a lot of people who lived in PG County, the Black people who lived in PG County, they work for the federal government.
Mm.
So you had a lot of Black people working for the federal government. A lot of those folks were laid off.
Yeah.
And so that has a direct impact on the community. So a lot of these communities are actually breaking down as a result of that. So I don't agree that they're allowed to thrive, but they're much less threatening if they embrace certain things that make them much more on the impotent
Mm.
side.
Wow. That's heavy. Okay. So a conscious Black communal, wealthy community, that would be a threat, is what you're saying.
Perhaps that
Oh.
became a power that was able to finance like political agendas,
Mhm.
that was able to hire and educate and fix the projects and fix the ghettos and you know what I'm saying, and increase the number of Black children who are achieving and now holding positions and creating their own business and being entrepreneurs and assuming roles as CEOs. Like, yeah, I would see, when you look at a lot of the white violence and racism here in the United States today, like people they talk about it openly. Like a lot of white people are concerned about genetic annihilation and becoming
Mm.
a minority in this country.
Yeah.
So they just feel a way about that. You see what I'm saying? Which is fine. Like I'm not really blaming that or whatever, but you know, so I feel like any kind of threat that symbolizes genetic annihilation or symbolizes white people not being as relevant,
Mm.
uh, could be conceived as a threat, and therefore the attacks. The founding of the Ku Klux Klan
Mhm.
in the United States came because of the slaves being freed, and they promised the slaves land here in the United States.
Yeah.
And the Ku Klux Klan, like these white folks were like, there's no possible way we can let that happen because you got to think about what a slave was. So a slave is a Black person who can basically do anything and
Yeah.
survive under almost any condition. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm.
what I'm saying, eating the worst of the worst food, working like 14, 15 hours a day, getting very little sleep. Basically a genius, like figuring out how to cultivate the land, figuring out how to make tools, all these types of things. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
white folks are like, what? These people are going to be free? You know what I'm saying? Like, no fucking way. And
Mm.
you're going to give them land too. So the Ku Klux Klan was formed as a means to not only terrorize Black communities, but take the land that was given to them. And the same thing happened with the unions. The formation of unions here in the United States was, again, like white folks wanting to guarantee their jobs. Because, again, if you think about the North, you had white people working like the railroad lines and factories and stuff like that. Well, here come these free Black people who are used to working for $0. You see what I'm saying? Coming up north,
Mm.
and they know their own people. They know that their white bosses are going to fucking try to undercut their salaries and pay these Black slave or ex-slaves a lower wage and get twice the work production.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So that's the reason why unions were formed, was to try to regulate the influx of Black workers into certain jobs. So
Huh.
that's always been a thing here in this country.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do need to heal from that as Black people. You know, like I said, I need to heal from it as well. I'm not sure how I want to go about doing that. I'm not sure if I'm ready to do that at this point.
Why don't you feel sure that you're ready to do that at this point?
It's just I have other things I would rather focus on.
Okay, okay.
Um, and yeah, I don't feel like it's a priority for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, sorry.
okay,
Yeah, for me, like from a dark feminine perspective, like I have two different viewpoints. One might be dark feminine. So one is that like I think like I'm not interested in trying to save Black people. I'm interested in me and my children first and
absolutely.
foremost, and making sure that we're good. Like I don't give a fuck about saving the masses of Black people. Like I mean I do care, but like when it comes right down to it, it's me and my kids. That's like the top priority. So I think that's the way to look at it rather than trying to like make this big, huge communal shift. But also I feel like the best way forward for most people, not just Black people, is to form connections with other races and other religions and like connect, not just with the person that is the same race as you, but have like a variety of connections. I think that's actually the safest way forward as far as prosperity is concerned.
Well, that's the most intelligent way forward.
Mm.
So, I've always cultivated relationships with like I grew up in white communities.
Hmm.
So I'm very much accustomed to being around white people and being friends. And, to this day, I have friends who are of all races.
Yeah.
And so I don't have like a racial thing where I feel like I need to separate from white people or whatever. I'm more so focused on people's character
Mm.
and are they my tribe? And, like I lived in Nashville, North Carolina. There's so many like very highly conscious people there, like white people, all types of people there. And it's
Mhm.
a beautiful community to be a part of. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Again, not that racism didn't exist there because it did, but you
Mhm.
know, Kenya and I have always been inclusive in that way.
Mhm.
Um, and I agree, like the way forward is for us to all come together to recognize our differences and our uniquenesses. You see what I'm saying? And embrace those in each other. Because I do believe that at the end of the day, we're all equal. Not the
Mhm.
same,
Mhm.
right? But we're all equal in terms of our potential and our abilities and what we have to offer to the planet. Like I believe that we all are brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. And so that's my philosophy. It's always been my philosophy.
Mhm.
Um, but again, I'm talking about like, do I feel like I could go form a Black community today in some town somewhere? I don't feel safe doing that.
Mhm.
And I know me not feeling safe doing that is more than just the historical reference. I know there's some trauma and fear that I have around that I
Yeah.
need to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. You may need the dark feminine for that kind of healing.
So,
'Cause
absolutely,
you're talking centuries of trauma. Uh,
absolutely.
yeah. So, just you were so amazing today, Rakim.
Much love. I really had a good time on the podcast.
Oh,
I
oh my
appreciate
gosh. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
it. Take care. Peace and blessings.